Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 2/10/2022, and today is the Odin Project Vlog Day 58. Um, so you see on the screen, I highlighted the two exercises I got through today was Palindromes and Fibonacci. A lot to cover tonight, so without further ado, let's get started. So with Palindromes, exercise 9, we're going to write a function that determines whether or not a given string is a palindrome. A palindrome is a string that is spelled the same both forwards and backwards, usually without consideration for punctuation or word breaks. Some palindromes: a car, a man, a maraca, rats live on no evil star, etc., etc. And remember with our Jest is that this is truthy and this is a falsy as an example of what to look out for as output. Remember, this does not go in your code. This is the output. If you're new to my channel and just coming into the series here and you're not used to using Jest to run your tests, just remember that this does not go in your code. This is what it's going to inject for you, and this is the result it expects to see out. The commented part there. So hit right into it here. So we have, this looks like a lot, but it's not actually. We start with a function, or no, excuse me, a variable called strip punc, which is just short for strip punctuation, and that takes the string.replace method. And all this gobbledygook after here is basically regular expressions, and then a single quote for space at the end, or double quote with no space. I won't go over regular expressions. I don't quite fully understand it myself. I just know that I got this online, and that regular expressions are a way to code and mean things in everyday terminology. It's just how it sounds, regular expressions. But we're basically using regular expressions here, and the str is the input function that we have here, and so the replace method on str is just going to replace anything that's in a possible regular expression, which is any of this punctuation, and it's going to strip it out. And that's why I put as a comment, strips all punctuation if applicable with regex. And then I have console logs sprinkled in here. I got them commented out because I wasn't using them at the end. That's just throughout the troubleshooting period. Highly encourage you guys to use these, especially when you're in Jest, because Jest won't give you any output. It will just tell you it didn't work. So having these console out logs excuse me, is nice because it'll tell you what's going on at different points of your code to see if the value is given out or what you expect or not. So anyway, moving on, we have a variable defined as final strip punc, which is basically a second iteration of replace, and this specifically strips out multi-word whitespace if applicable with regex. Sorry, I can't say that tonight. So this is the regex for basically a white space. So this is removing white space, and I'll go through it with you guys in a minute after we go through all the requirements. Then it'll make more sense with why we're doing this. So that'll take on the final strip punc, and then we create another variable called final stripped stir, which is string, which takes on final strip punc dot to lowercase, and that is simply as it sounds. It removes all uppercase letters if applicable. And the applicable is in there because there is some exercises or tests that run where there isn't any uppercase in there. So then this wouldn't actually do anything. It would run it, but it wouldn't result in anything other than the normal string that it was put into. And we have the next line is a variable called split string, which takes on final strip string dot split and then double quotes. What this does is this takes final strip, so it takes this value here and it splits it out into an array. And so the split method will parse everything out into an array with commas. And then we're going to reverse the array by inputting split string dot reverse. So we're going to create an array with split, and then we're going to reverse it with just dot reverse. It's going to flip it going the other way, just as a palindrome would require. And then we have a final variable of final reverse string equals and takes on the value of reverse array dot join, which is this this variable dot join, which will take the reversed array and join it all back together. So basically it's going to strip out the array and put it back into string formats. That is basically what join does. So it takes out all the commas and the bracketry, and then we have a simple if at the bottom here. Again, I'll go over this in a minute because this has to do with some of the requirements. So if final stripped str is equal to in type and value of final reverse str, return true, and that's per the requirements, if you remember. So we want to write a function that determines whether or not a given string is a palindrome. And so race car is a palindrome, so we want it to spit out true. Tacos is not, because reverse tacos does not say tacos, so it'd be false. So else, basically this will return false if the value of final strip string does not equal final reverse string. And so if we run a test, if we go out to the command line here, and we run npm space test space palindromes.spec.js, it'll run through all the tests and they pass. So that's that. As always, in the last time we did these, we went ahead and on some of them, I believe, if I remember right, we went ahead and took a look at the their solution. So we'll just take a quick peek and see. Yeah, see they this is one thing I want to get better at, is succincting my code, being verbose but yet cleaning up like this and making it do less things. Because really, granted these are comments, but I have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines of code, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I guess it's not that different, but this just still looks cleaner. So basically, we have they created a I guess process string is taking on string.lowercase to replace, and then they've got their regex in there. They do it all in one basically instead of splitting it out like I did, and they do their lowercase or replace is all in one line, takes process string, and then the return statement is I like this actually. It's pretty easy to understand. So again, because it's linear and I like linear, so it takes process string, and so it takes the result of this and then splits it, reverses, and joins it, which we just went over in my code. And then the final evaluation is the dot join, which is joining it back to a string. If that equals process string, then return it. So that's their solution. So I was pretty close. I like my result. I think I did pretty well on it. And then Fibonacci is a different story. So we'll go through that one. Again, I'm just human, so I kind of hacked this one together, but we'll go through it here. Create a function that returns a specific member of the Fibonacci sequence, a sequence of numbers in which each Fibonacci number is the sum of the two preceding numbers. The simplest is the series 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, etc. And they give it an example here. Again, it's not code. This is not code. I repeat, not code. Do not put this in your code. This is an example, so the Jest will give it 4, and then it will put input of 4, and it will expect a return of the fourth member of the series, which is 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So it should spit out the value of 3, and then Fibonacci 6 would return 8 because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the 8th spot. So that's basically it. So basically what we have to do is we have to find a way, and this took me a while to figure this out, and I think I did a pretty good job. It's a hack job, and you'll see why in a moment. But basically we got to figure out a way to create an array of, because you see the keyword is series, so I knew right away we're going to create an array or Fibonacci numbers sequences, so that when the Jest test comes in, all we have to do is just index it and have it check for that index and return. So that last part's simple. It's just getting that array created from nothing is the difficult part. So here's what I have. So I have let fibs equal 1 1, and I'll go over that in a minute. Just hang with me on that one. So it takes the initial value of a 1 and a 1 to start the array. Fib sum is another variable. And actually, I forgot something there. That should still run fine. Fib sum equals 0. That's just a variable we're going to use, and I create a for loop with an iteration of I equals 0. I is less than fib, and we're going to increment I by 1 going up. So, and I forgot to say, we're intaking the value is going to be called fib for the parameter, and we have fib sum equals excuse me, fib sum equals fib.at -1 plus fibs dot at -2, and the at is basically essentially just us pointing to the exact it's us pointing to the exact index we want to use, and if you use a negative number here, it means it's going to go to the last index in the array. So this is saying basically fibs.at latest / last array item, index item, and then we're going to add it to the -2, which is the one right before that one. So you think of, you know, the one to the left of that will be added together, and that will equal fib sum. And then we're going to do a push. If you remember from earlier, we learned about several lessons ago, we learned about push, quite a few actually. I actually had to look this one up because I couldn't remember how to basically what we're doing is we're having to push the value of whatever's in the loop. For this instance of fib sum, we need to push it into the array at the end, and push does that. So, you know, there's push, there's pop, and there's all kinds of different ones. So push is the one that pushes the value. It pushes it in and it puts it at the end, which is exactly what we want. So fibs.push takes the value of fib sum and puts it in, and I sprinkled that console.log as I was troubleshooting. And down here is an if then else statement. So we have I'll go over this in a second too. So if fib value is equal to or greater than 0, return fibs and then in brackets fib -1. And this is, I felt really good up to this point, and this is where I feel like I did a hack job. And I'll talk about that in a second. Else if the fib is less than 0, excuse me, less than 0, return oops. And so the if statement comes from, if we look at here's the guts of the test file. Does accept strings. Here, doesn't accept negatives. So we want it to be, if it gives it a negative number, we want it to be oops. And so that's why this if statement exists, because if fib is equal to or greater than 0, it can't be negative, so it's going to return fibs -1. Else if fib is less than 0, which means if fib is a negative number, we're going to return oops. So that solves both of those problems there. The why it's a hack job. So, 2 reasons. This is weird. This works, but this isn't correct. I honestly don't know why, and I compensated with this. So what happened was when I first ran this, I just had fib in here because I was thinking the fib is the number that Justin gives it. I figured that this would work great for returning the correct, because what this is going to do, if it says 5 or 2, for example, or actually 1 would be a good example. If the fib was 1, it would say return fibs of 1, which means go to the first index, which here, in this example, your first index is 0 and your second index is 1, so it would return 1, which is the correct answer, but it doesn't do that. So it gives me, for some reason, when you put fib in the brackets, let me know in the comments if you guys know why this is, what's wrong with my code, if that's why it's doing this. But if you don't put -1, it doesn't, it's like it doesn't read index 0, it starts at 1. So basically you got a -1 to get the index to go backwards 1 to get you the right number. Otherwise it's all off. And I don't know if it's because it shouldn't matter that I started off with an array that had data in it. I don't know if it's because I started my iteration at 0 maybe, or fib sum 0. I don't know. Something's off. It passed all the tests, and I'll show you here in a minute. It does run through them all, but it's a hack job. You should not, I shouldn't have to compensate for that. So, or maybe it's something with the way my ats are used, or maybe I shouldn't have used ats, and maybe something else was better. I don't know. If you guys have any ideas, I'm kind of stumped on that one. Throw it in the comments. Let me know. And the reason why there's 1 1 in here is because when I had an empty array sitting here with nothing in it, I would get a error saying I think it was not a number. Yeah, because when this loop would start up, it's looking to fibs for something, because we're looking at the last and second to last positions, and it would give me not a number because there's nothing there, so it doesn't know what to give you. It's not a string, it's not a number, it's nothing. So it was giving me NaNs for my arrays, and so yeah. So everything else looks pretty good. Everything else works, and so I will show you. Like I said, it's not the cleanest thing. It's kind of a hack job. I'm not super proud of it, but it does work, and that's why I decided to make the video. So if we go out here and go to 10 Fibonacci, I think, yeah. Okay, so we do npm space test space Fibonacci spec.js, and it passes them all great. I'm fully aware that this is not, something's up with this, and I'm fully aware that this will eventually, even though it ran fine for the Jest, everything checked out real good, this is buggy, and I guarantee at some point it's gonna break. So because you shouldn't have to do this, you shouldn't have to do that, you shouldn't have to like start it out. Yeah, there's different ways, right? So with that said, let's take a look at what the solution is, what they used. So theirs is similar but quite a bit different. So going through this real quick, they have if count is less than 0, return oops. So that's that challenge there if they got a negative number. If count is equal to 0, return 0. I didn't have that, which that makes sense because Fibonacci 0 is not a Fibonacci. So maybe that is right there is the key to why mine doesn't work, because they're not testing at 0. They're returning 0 manually. And then they have they define A as 0, initialize it, and they initialize and define B as 1. And then they have a for command loop here that has I equals 1, I is less than count, which is, I had the same thing except mine wasn't called count, it was called fib. And then increment I by 1, so that was good. And inside here they have a little jujitsu going on here. they created a temp variable that took the value of b, which at the beginning of the loop will be 1, and then b, it will take on the new value of a plus b. So when you iterate through your first time, a will be 0 and b will be 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. And then that will become b. So b still remained 1, and then a will take the value of temp. I think they're just gyrating this around so they can keep. They're just doing this. We've seen them do this before in other solutions. It's fine. It's just keeping the variables moving around so that you can keep iterating up, I guess, if you will. I personally wouldn't do it like this because we've been told. Ironically, this is top material, not to condemn or anything, but just something I just thought about. We were always told to keep your variables the same value, like don't be using different variables for different things, and this kind of flies against that a little bit. But I mean, you guys follow it, so it'll loop through, and it's using, it's moving temp around from basically B to A as it needs it to, and then at the end of the loop it'll return B, which makes sense. So that returns the end value of B, which will end when the count is, when basically that entered number is done. It will break out and return the B, which is the very last thing. And that's why the return B is outside of the loop, because if, say, the input just inputs 10, it's going to loop through 10 times, and it's going to break out, because this will be now a false statement, so it'll break out and return B back up, and that should be the answer. So, and would be the answer. So that's it. 21 minutes. So I'm gonna stop here, and that's as far as I got. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed this journey along with me tonight into palindromes and Fibonacci. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content. And without further ado, until next time, see ya.